You're watching The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
Hey, everybody. It's cold open time. It's funny, because the cold open should be planned. It should be, but no. I always forget about it, because here we are again. I'm thinking, okay, I'm thinking about next week's show, because I just watched She-Hulk. I got some wild speculation theories on that, because it was a pretty big episode in a sense. It wasn't, but they introduced enough tiny little threads to go, ooh, oh, but yeah. And then I watched 3 episodes of Andor. And then I watched something from 1978 that's now stuck in my brain. And I forgot that we're supposed to do a cold open. But they kind of want us to do one. And it's supposed to be interesting, but I don't know. What's interesting about a cold open? It's not like it's Saturday Night Live or, James Bond, where they come out and, we do a little kill, and then suddenly it's like, it's just a cold open, But, so, all right. That's probably long enough. Stay tuned for the Dan Wickline Show. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. We are going to talk about Cassian Andor today. Hello, Ed. Hello, Cool. Good to see you guys. Ed, I'm glad you got through all 3 episodes. I think it helps. I'll admit that I watched the first episode and went, wow, it's interesting, but it's slow. And I watched the second episode and I'm like, well, it's still interesting, but it's still slow. And I got to the third episode. I went, oh, now things are happening. So I definitely see why they went, yeah, let's go ahead and release 3 episodes, especially since they all came in about 40 minutes. So, about 2 hours worth of Cassian Andor, which is the equivalent of Rogue One. I think time-wise is close to the same. But we will definitely jump into that in just a minute. Today we got a good lineup for you guys. After this is going to be What's in the Box with Miss Jen. And then we're going to get Kicking It with Henri tonight. So I don't know what else is in between there. Those are the ones I remember. But, it's not like Late Night with Seth Meyers where I got a cue card guy. I don't have somebody over here going, okay, here's what you say. Okay, yeah. So I don't get the list very well. But, yeah. Ed says that's exactly what I was thinking verbatim. Oh, Space Cadets at 8 p.m. Yeah, Space Cadets at 8 Eastern, 765. Pacific. Yes, I did the math in my head. Actually, I did it out loud when I said it, but yeah, I did the math in my head where the math gets done. Actually, I just saw that clip. That's a great line from Blind Spot, where Ashley Johnson's character calculates the speed of the plane, and somebody goes, how? She says, I did the math. Where? In my head, where the math gets done. Like, well done. I believe Nerdcular Warfare is on hiatus, needs to make some more episodes. I think hiatus is a good thing for that. Nick can do that stuff. He's uncanny. Really? Huh. Yeah. That's why he's good at business. All right. So, Cassian Andor. I want to start by saying just my general overall feelings on the show. And then we're going to get into it, and there's going to be some spoilers. So we'll do the spoiler warning thing. But first, let me just say it didn't feel exactly like a Star Wars thing. And I think that's good. I remember watching the first episode of The Mandalorian. And what I loved about it was here was this whole new lore that we were getting into. This whole area of Star Wars that we hadn't really played around in. You know, we were going to follow the Mandalorians. We were looking at how they were all underground, how they had the "this is the way" thing, and they can take their helmets off, and just this whole new area to play with. And then at the end of the episode, we get introduced to Grogu, or Baby Yoda at the time, the child. They wanted us to call it the child. Yeah, that didn't work. You know, and I really loved it because, like I said, it was like playing in a whole new aspect of Star Wars that we hadn't played in that much, you know? And sure enough, a few episodes later, we were dealing with the Force and Jedis and the Empire and all the stuff that we've gotten before. And then we got Luke Skywalker and, you know, Ahsoka. And I still love The Mandalorian. The character's great. The series is so well written. But we kind of lost that moment of whole new area of Star Wars. It's similar to what I got when I first started reading The High Republic. Because it's like, you know who's not here? Those damn Skywalkers. They're not here. This is not a Skywalker story. This is so far back, there's no Skywalkers. This is all going to be new stuff, all new territories. Yes, there's Jedis, but they're different. And yes, all this is going on, but there's no Skywalkers. And then Yoda showed up. Because Yoda lives a long time. So he's in the High Republic. And it's like, you didn't need Yoda. You know? It's like they're afraid to let us play in an area of Star Wars that we haven't played in before. If they took a hard left turn and did a Knights of the Old Republic trilogy, I think we'd all cheer. Maybe. My knowledge of Knights of the Old Republic is the video game, is the MMORPG, which I played the hell out of when it came out. The flashback parts with the blowguns and stuff was a lot like what they did with Book of Boba Fett and the Bacta tank. I know why they did it, but it makes it so slow, and I think they spent way too much time on it, both shows. Yeah, they are spending a lot of time on the backstory of Cassian Andor. And I don't know how much we really care. Are we tuning in to find out more about a character who has been in one movie and then dies, so we know that there's not that much to invest in this character? This is not going to be our new lead for a whole series of movies and stuff. This is going to be the guy that's around for 2 seasons and then he's done. And that's what we've got. We've got 2 seasons with 24 episodes with Diego Luna as Cassian Andor. And then we can rewatch Rogue One, and he dies. And I know Rogue One is a well-loved entry into the Star Wars lore. And I say entry because I have a hard time calling it a movie. And I say that because it doesn't conform to a standard movie. There is no real story arc for any of the characters. We're seeing a moment in a story extended out over a 2-hour period or however long Rogue One was. And it's a bridge. If you're a musician, it's not the chorus, it's not the verse, it's that little bridge section that gets you back to the chorus or the verse. And that's what Rogue One is. It connects the dots between Phantom Menace. No, not Phantom Menace. Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. It's that connector bridge. It's that one that gets us back on track. But it's not a movie in itself. No one sits down and sees Rogue One that hasn't seen Star Wars, doesn't know A New Hope, doesn't know any of those things. My mom actually may be one of the few who... Did we watch them in order or did we watch them in release order? No, I think we watched them in release order. It would have been better to watch like 1, 2, and 3, Rogue One, Solo, 4, 5, and 6. But no, I think we went in the other order, the standard order. But my point being is that Rogue One is not a movie by itself. You can't, if someone's never seen any Star Wars movies and you sit down, you show them Rogue One and you don't show them A New Hope, it doesn't make any sense. It's just a suicide mission. It's Force 10 from Navarone. It's, everybody dies. And that's, again, there's no story arc. There's no happy ending. It's just, and then we get the scene with Vader, which is completely out of context for anyone who hasn't seen A New Hope. So that's why I have a hard time calling Rogue One a movie, because it doesn't work without A New Hope, and the rest of Star Wars to kind of blanket it. Itself is an interesting story. It's very fascinating. I enjoyed it when I watched it, but I watched it with all of that. Yeah, it's an expansion pack. Great terminology there. So we're kind of limited with Cassian. And like I said, we've got 24 episodes. That's all we're going to get with him. And then he's gone. And that might actually make this a little more interesting. Because, well, we know he's going to live until he dies. We know that at some point he is part of the Rebel Alliance, that he's done some bad stuff for the Rebel Alliance, and that's it. That's all we need to know about him. But they're giving us a lot of backstory, and where I like the idea that he, okay. Let's go ahead and run the spoiler thing, because I'm going to start talking about the episodes now. So, JD, if you would. All right. What Ed's talking about is they decide it's important to show us basically Star Wars version of Lord of the Flies. It's on a planet called Canarsie. I believe it's Canarsie. Canary. there is a mining accident, and it looks like the children of the miners survive where the adults don't. And you have a group of kids taking care of themselves in kind of a Lord of the Flies pack. And we see a ship has crashed there, or, you know, and all the crew, which they have separatist logos on their uniforms, are affected, like there was a gas leak or something that affected them. And only one is left alive, and he's on the ground. And when he gets up, he kills the leader of the children. And the Canari don't even talk in English. We never know what they're saying. And I don't think we're supposed to know. We're supposed to see how just foreign these kids are, that they're kind of wild. They were raised by themselves, and that's kind of the vibe we're supposed to get. And yeah, I'm doing this out of order, but the flashback takes place through the first 3 episodes. And eventually we see that he gets hooked up in all of this with a scavenger named damn it. It's supposed to be right there where I need it. It's Fiona Shaw's character of... It gives it an M. You guys probably have it on the screen, and I'm still looking for it. Marva Andor. So, Scavenger McScavenger face. Yes, that's it. Marva Andor, and I think her the guy with her is named Clay, who we get the impression might have been her husband, and they come across this kid on the ship, and his name is Casa. At least that's what his sibling is calling it. His young girl keeps calling him. Yeah. No, Ed. That's okay. Let me get to that. When we see this kid, Casa, there is this younger kid, younger female, that is kind of following him around and everything else. So when they put this exploring group together, led by this older girl, the younger girl is left behind. And I think that is the one that he considers his sister. Now, is it actually his sister? I don't know. But that is who I think he's looking for in the beginning of the show. So she gets left behind because she's too young to go on this scavenger thing. And of course, they get down there. The leader woman or leader girl goes down and starts exploring, and she gets shot by the one separatist who's still alive. And they, of course, start attacking him with blowguns and eventually take him out. I don't know if there's poison on the blowgun, the darts, or if they just stab him enough times it kills him. But where all the other kids run away because their leader gets killed, Casa goes on the ship to explore, sees his own reflection, and I guess we're supposed to get the idea that he hates everything that's happened, and he starts angrily breaking up things and beating up things. And that's where Marva and Clay discover him, along with their droid B2EMO or B2EMO, which, yep, the droids are becoming too emo. I got to tell you that. I think they actually call themselves out. Yeah, no, Ed, that's not who he's. It's the younger girl that I think is who he's calling his sister. So he ends up being taken by Marva and Clay and when they leave the planet because the authorities are coming. And it's hard to tell if it's the Empire that's coming, because I don't know how strong the Empire is at this point, but I think it's the Empire that's coming. And then, but we get this whole flashback thing. Hey, Lau. Well, once we get into the modern day, they do something that no other Star Wars show has done. They tell us what planet they're on, which is something they did in Rogue One. And then they give us the date. But they give us the date in the way that it's used in the Star Wars timeline, which is based off the Battle of Yavin. So we see on the screen BBY5. And that basically means that it's 5 years before the Battle of Yavin, or 5 years until New Hope, into the first Star Wars movie. So we know that this is basically 5 years until Cassian dies, because he dies right before the Battle of Yavin. Now, like I said, they've never used that. They've never specifically put a time frame on the screen. If it is the Empire, I love the fast food uniform they wear. The color they choose to use was quite odd. Are you talking about the ones who end up chasing Cassian and show up on the planet? Because I don't think we actually I don't remember seeing the Empire on Kenari. Yeah, the ones that chase him are not actually Empire. They're part of a corporation. But I'll get to that in just a second. I also found it fascinating that they named the planet Kenari, because I don't believe we've ever heard of Kenari before. But this is a mining planet that had a huge accident. And if you're familiar with mining terminology from like the 1800s and stuff, there's the term a canary in the coal mine. And what it was is they used to take canaries with them into a mine shaft. And because canaries were so small, if something went wrong with the air or the oxygen in a mine shaft, the canary would die first before it would completely kill a human. So the canary was taken in, and if somebody saw the canary die, they knew to get the hell out of the mine shaft. Well, so I find it interesting that here we are on a planet that has a mining accident that kills all of the adults and is supposed to have killed all of the settlers on there, or everybody involved, and is called Kenari, very close to Canary. So I think they did that on purpose. All right, so we jump to the future, to the beginning of the first episode. So all that flashback stuff takes place sporadically over the 3 episodes, and they kind of cut in weird places. It's not as clear. I mean, as much as we joke about Book of Boba Fett and the Bacta tank, at least you knew when these were going to happen. Oh, he's getting in the Bacta tank. It's time for a flashback. Get your popcorn. Or we knew coming out of it, he was going to be in a Bacta tank. Here, he just kind of weaves in and out of the things. But we start off on, let's see, what's the name of the planet? They don't start off where he's actually at. They start off on Moreland 1. Moreland 1. And Moreland 1 is basically, again, with mining, it's a mining town, or it's a corporate town. So what happens in American history as well, in other countries' history, but in Star Wars as well, is a company will come in to work a planet, or like I said, it's like if a big mine is discovered in America, then what would happen is this corporation would come in to work the mine, but they knew they would need miners, they would need to take care of the miners, they need housing for the miners, they would need food supplies and all that other stuff. So what they would do is build this town up around the mine. And they would also supply the security guards, the police, all that stuff. So you'd see these mining towns or corporate towns, and everything involved is owned by the corporation. So all the shops, like I said, the security or the police of the area, the restaurants are all owned by the corporation. And that's kind of what's going on here. Is Morlan and also Ferrix, which is a planet nearby, they're all under the Morlan. Trying to remember the name of the corporation. But it's basically like a company town. They're all, run by this corporation. And so the police that come after him, or the guards and stuff that come after him, they're not Empire. They work for the corporation. But the corporation has, their own currency too. So the corporation has a contract with the Empire to do this stuff, but to police themselves and all that. So it becomes their kind of own little world. So that's what these guys are. They're not actually Empire, which is why you see kind of a mishmash of, what these guys are like. You don't have hardcore soldiers or stormtroopers. You end up with this group of personal or private security, basically. And some of them are good, some of them are not. So that's what you end up with. Now, Morlana 1, or whatever it's called, we see Cassian going there, Diego Luna, because he's looking for someone. And he ends up going to the company area of this planet where they have brothels. And yes, we start off in a brothel, which it's the second series to have a brothel, because I'm pretty sure that's kind of what was in Book of Boba Fett too. So he goes to this brothel. He's trying to find this Canary girl. And they're like, oh, well, she's not here. And he's like, well, what was her name? And he says, I'm trying to find my sister. Well, in doing so, that gives them enough information to know that he's a Canary. And, he gets kind of picked on by the local security there. And then because he gets served first, and it's because the brothel probably doesn't want the security there, but they have to put up with them. So they placate him. But when a new customer comes in, it's like, oh, maybe more money. And when he ends up leaving, the security follows him and try to roust him, get some money off of him, maybe take him in, give him a hard time. And they get into a fight, and he accidentally kills one of them. And in doing so, he realizes he's going to have to kill the other one, and does. Even though the guy is like, hey, no, we can go in. We can work this out. You didn't mean to kill him. It was an accident. Things just got out of hand. And he ends up killing both of them. Now, I found that very interesting because there's this terminology in screenwriting called save the cat. And save the cat means that you want to like your lead character. So oftentimes what they'll do is they'll put a scene in early to make you like that character. Something simple, he helps someone, he saves a cat, that type of thing. This is not a save the cat moment. This is things just went horribly wrong moment. And that's kind of weird that they did that, because they're not really, and at no point until he gives that speech in Rogue One where he talks about the sacrifice, are we ever really supposed to connect with Cassian? Which, again, totally outside your normal writing curve. They really don't give us this connection to him. And through the 3 episodes, they really don't make him a sympathetic character. He's just this force of nature trying to get, trying to survive. So I'm fascinated by that. And are we ever going to find if he's a nice guy or not? Sounds very Han-like. Is he Han-like? In a way, yeah. Because with Han, we're introduced to him, and then we see him kill Greedo. And even though they try to take that back, yeah. Or pre-Chewie Han, yeah. But they showed that Han loved there was a girl he loved, and he wanted to get them off the planet. So there was love in Han's heart. We don't even get that with Cassian. We do see he has an affection for Marva, and he has friends, but he's also willing to use those friends to get what he wants. And he's putting them in risk too. So it says, I think that's where my confusion started. When he killed the second guy, I assumed that they were Empire because of Rogue One, and I was assuming Andor was the hero of the movie. He's not the hero yet. At this point, he's just a guy trying to survive. And he's looking for his sister. And yeah, he could have knocked the guy out. I mean, they want us to see that he's an anti-hero, that he's not a good guy. I think that's the trick. But then if you watch Rogue One, he's willing to kill a member of his own team because that guy was going to slow them down. So, yeah, Cassian's not supposed to be a good guy. He's supposed to be the guy you need, not the guy you want. But yeah, so that's the start of it all. And if you think about it, had those 2 guards not decided to hassle him, none of this would have happened. And there's a good chance he would never have ended up as part of the Rebel Alliance, because he would have just continued living on Ferrix and, with his simple life and stealing stuff from the Empire, and never have led to where he ends up. So I think that's kind of interesting. But he then goes into survival mode. He heads back to Ferrix. He starts cleaning up everything. He starts hiding the logs of his trip. He starts creating an alibi by going to his friend, Embrasso, and then set up what the alibi is going to be. And he knows he's got to get out of there. So he goes to Bix, who is played by Adria Arjona. And he knows he's got to get out of there. So he starts trying to put everything in motion to get him off planet, get him out of there. But he needs money. And to do so, Bix has a buyer who puts together, who will buy anything, but he usually sells it through Bix Kalen. Well, this particular buyer, Luthen Real, who we don't find out who he is, until the 3rd episode, and then it gets interesting. But he has said that he's been interested in meeting with Cassian. So now, knowing how much trouble he's in, he reaches out and says, okay, we need to make this happen. So, I totally missed the first break. So Let's take our first break, and we'll come back and we'll pick back up on Cassian in just a minute. Be right back.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.
Imagine being at a convention and going to an interview panel that's just for you. No bustling crowds, no hours-long lines, just you, the moderator, and your favorite comic book creators. Well, this is pretty much that. Miss Jen sits down every week with 2 comic book creators for a live stream interview about their latest work, and you can ask them whatever you want. It's Talking Shop, Mondays at 5 Eastern on The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales.
There's something for every imagination at your local comic shop. Visit comicshoplocator.com to find a store near you.
Who would win, Batman or Superman? It's the age-old debate, except it's so much more complicated than that. Nerd Killer Warfare every week on The Experience is your chance to debate other nerds in the questions we've all been asking for years, except we take those debates and turn them up to 11. Go to bit.ly/EXP casting or scan the QR code to be part of the show.
Hi, I'm Seda Wolf. I'm the creator of Soulstream, and you're watching The Experience.
Everybody, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show. We are talking about Cassian Andor, the first 3 episodes. We were talking about Cassian returning to Ferrix and trying to create his alibi. And the interesting thing is that both Ferrix and Morlana 1 fall under the purview of the company, of the corporation. The difference, though, is Morlana 1 is a working mine or working area where Ferrix is just kind of there. So the corporation really doesn't pay attention to it. And everybody there is struggling, getting by. They're poor, and they're all willing to lie, cheat, and steal is pretty much how it comes across. There's a salvage yard on there, and he goes to his buddy Brasso at the salvage yard and says, last night we got together and we drank and, we got into it, I was at your place all night, and he ended up turning around and going, yes. And you questioned my choice of drink, and we got up to throw punches, and you slipped and fell and hit your head, and you ended up sleeping it off at the house to explain, so not only is he creating an alibi, his buddy is adding to it. Bix, like I said, sells all this stuff. So she, she pays Imperial people to leave things on ships before they get salvaged so that they could then resell them. So everybody's got their con going on. So that's the type of planet it is. But it's also very much of, these are my family planet. These are my people planet, which becomes a big thing later on. Now, back on Morlana 1, there is a particular officer who finds out about the two dead. And he is very adamant about wanting to investigate. And this is Poldark. Solar Poldark, I think is his name. And he, looks into it stuff, and he goes to his superior and says, look, these guys have been killed. I've stayed up all night putting it together. And his superior is like, they weren't murdered. They died in a fight. They were in an area they were in a brothel that A, they shouldn't be able to afford. B, they shouldn't have been in because they were on duty. And this is just going to cause problems. He says, I have to go meet with the Empire. And when I give my report about the crimes we're dealing with, I want it to be as quick and quiet as possible, because the less the Empire hears from us, the better, because then the Empire won't care. So he doesn't want a murder investigation, and he doesn't think of it as a murder investigation. He thinks that two of his officers got themselves into a bad situation and lost. Hey, Kenneth. And he tells him, no investigation, write up an accident report, let this go away. That's the second time that had somebody done what they were told or done what they were supposed to do, Cassian would never have ended up in the rebellion. So in a lot of ways, things happen to Cassian. He doesn't make choices. Where Han in Solo was trying to get off the planet. He was doing things to make things happen. That's what I find different between the two characters. Cassian kind of gets bad things happen to him and he ends up where he ends up. Han is trying to work his way up and things happen. But of course, Poldark doesn't listen, because his superior then has to go to a meeting and leaves him in charge. And this Poldark is the guy who takes the uniform that the company gives him and has it altered, has it tailored, adds a little piping to the pocket, just spruces up his uniform to make him look a little better. And he's not a very good officer. He's not very inspiring, but he decides he wants to catch these guys. It's the right thing to do. And he starts putting everybody on it. And of course, he finds out that they're looking for a Canary and all this other stuff. But the thing is that Cassian has never told any officials that he's Canary. They say he's from Fest, which is a planet that has popped up in some of the video games and some of the books. It's not one we've seen in the live action stuff before. But they say he's from Fest. So when they're out there looking for Canary, that should be enough to let it go. But the problem is that Bix and Cassian are good friends. And Bix has a boyfriend who owns the salvage yard that Bix works at. And he gets jealous of their connection and thinks that perhaps Cassian is going to get her in trouble. And Cassian hasn't been too quiet about his origins with his close friends. So Bix knows that he's Canary. And she must have mentioned it to this guy, Tim. Yes, there's a Tim in Star Wars now. 2 M's to make it unique, but it's Tim, Timm. And Tim rats him out because a Bolo comes out saying, we're looking for, yes, that's what I thought too, Tim the Enchanter. A Bolo went out looking for a Canary male, and then they also, so he calls in this tip. They then start putting it all together. They know that he's on Ferrix because they were able to follow the ship, the travel of the ship back. So now they're all coming there, and Cassian goes to Bix, say, I want to meet your buyer. I've got this special thing I've been saving. I need to get out of here. Well, the buyer is Luthien, who is Stellan Skarsgård. And Luthien Rael is going to be the big shift in Cassian's life. There's this parallel going on between the two. Marva is a scavenger, is, a little bit of a thief and stuff like that. Cassian comes into her life, is led by her and Clay, and that's who he becomes. And we see at the end of the third episode, there's this parallel where he's having to leave to go with Luthien to get off the planet. And we also see where Marva and Clay pick him up off and take him from Kenari. And they parallel these two trips. And it shows that Cassian is basically having a rebirth at this point. That the new Cassian is being born at this moment. So he became what he was because of his time with Marva and Clay and B2. And now he's being taken in under the wing of Luthen. And Luthen is going to be his new father figure, his mentor. And we're going to get the Cassian. Now we're going to see how he goes from being this scavenger guy into becoming the super spy. And we see that early on. He makes mistakes. His plan is to meet with Luthen, sell the thing, get as much money as he can, leave some credits for Marva, get on a ship, and get the hell out of there. But he needs to be able to let Marva know where the credits are that he's leaving. So he sets up a communicator with B2 so he could tell him where they are. And the problem is that communicator ends up leading the company police to him. And they're, in this abandoned warehouse or factory thing. And there's a big fight. You've probably seen the clips from that in either the trailers or the clip that they released. But in it, we see Luthen is kind of showing that he's already the spy. He walked into the meeting and put explosives on the door, basically creating his exit. And that's one of the things he tells him is never enter a room without creating an exit. Yes, he's there for this box, but Luthen is actually more interested in Cassian because Cassian is coming up with things that he shouldn't be able to get. Devices and stuff. And what he's offering is this special tracking box for the Empire that's still wrapped and has never been used. And it's all the coordinates of all the ships. I mean, it's a coordinate thing. So it's special and it's worth like 40,000 credits or whatever it is. And 4,000 credits, or it's enough to get him where he needs to go. Well, Luthen is interested in it, but he's more interested in how Cassian got it. And we find out that he says that at one point he says, is that your father was hung in the square? Now I'm assuming he means Clay because I don't get the feeling that he knows who Cassian's real father is. So he knows Clay. So Luthen has been watching Cassian and seeing him grow up and what he can do and sees him as a recruit. And to him, that is more valuable than this tech that he came to buy. So his whole thing is there because he wants to recruit Cassian. And we kind of get the idea that maybe Bix is more in on it than we think because, she knows where the secret communicator stuff is. Now, this could all be just, to the setup that Luthen has. But I kind of get the feeling that she's actually involved in the Empire or in the rebellion too. So maybe there's a reunion coming. But when the company police show up, And we get the idea, they kind of know who they're going after, and we see them kind of take over Marva's house and threaten her and stuff. The people of Ferrix step up, and they start signaling, and just by basically there's these metal, almost like wind chimes hanging all over the place, but they start pounding on them louder and louder, and it's all over the place, and everybody runs to them and starts pounding on them. And what it is, it's this warning that something bad's happening to one of their own. And it's a warning that gets all the way out to Cassian at the warehouse, so he knows something bad's about to happen. It tells all of his friends, and his friends start doing things to help him too. Brasso, which is awesome, is at the salvage yard, which is where the company police's ship is, and he sets it up on a tow line, so when they take off, they're dragging this giant bit of scrap, causing the ship to crash. Bix is trying to get to him to help, runs into some of the men, and when they try to take her into custody because she looks worried, Tim comes running to her aid and gets killed. And I don't feel bad for that. Tim's kind of a jerk. Tim called it in, and she knows it. So where she's sad that Tim is dead, Tim deserves to die. So the disenchanter at that point. But, so basically these 3 episodes are all, they're giving us the past that Cassian had. I really thought he planted a bomb on the ship, but having it anchored was a great idea. In a way, that was also a nod to George Lucas. If you remember the movie American Graffiti, there's a cop car that's hanging out trying to catch the drag racers. And what they do is they put a chain under it to the axle of the cop car, and they secure it to something else. I don't remember what they secure it to. And then the cop car, when the racers go by, takes off after them, and immediately it pulls the bottom axle out and off of the cop car, and it crashes down. So that was kind of a nod to Lucas's early film, American Graffiti, which I thought was a neat little nod there. But yeah, so the first 3 episodes are all pretty much to get us to Cassian wanting to do more with his life and getting this new mentor of Luthen. He doesn't really care about the Empire at this point. He looks at the Empire, and we get this speech from him where he thinks the Empire is fat and bloated and overconfident because he is able to just walk on their ships, take what he wants, and leave because they don't care. They're not that secure. They're, you put on one of their uniforms, you can walk in and do what you want. And they've shown that countless times in Star Wars. How many times have we seen someone dressed as a stormtrooper just walk their way through? Or in an Imperial uniform. Kenobi puts a hat on and a trench coat, tucks a kid under his the coat, and is able to walk through almost the full base before somebody notices. They don't pay attention. They're so confident that they don't look to see somebody. They don't think anybody could infiltrate them. So, and maybe this is supposed to forgive that scene in Kenobi. That was a kind of a silly scene. But that's the whole premise for him is, they're so confident, overconfident in themselves that you could get in and do what you want to do. You could get in and sabotage. You could get in and steal. And that's kind of what this is about. And it's that answer that makes Luthien want him as part of the rebellion and give him a chance to work against the Empire. And Cassian is again in a situation that he's stuck because there's all these corporate cops looking for him. They know who he is now because Tim ratted him out. He's no closer to finding his sister, which I thought it was interesting that they really didn't play it up as being that important to him. It's important enough that he goes to Morlon 1, but there's no later on where he's explaining to Marva, I have to find my sister, or any of that stuff. It's never mentioned again. So I don't know how really important it is to him. But he has to leave at that point with Luthen, who has his own ship, and we see him immediately putting in the things that Luthen's teaching him. Because Luthen says, never enter something without building an exit, and, stuff like that. And then we see Cassian using that just a few minutes later when he goes to get the speeders, and they're like, wait, do you still have any of the charges? And he sends out the dummy speeder to take out some of the guards before they create their own exit and leave. So, you can see that he's going to be a fast study. I found this very interesting. I did find the first 2 episodes very slow because it's a lot of backstory, and I don't know how much of it we really needed. Did we need Kenari? Did we need him to have this kind of backstory? I don't know. We'll have to see how it plays out. We'll have to see if his sister becomes a character later on. Is she somebody important? I mean, for all we know at this point, it might be Bix, because Star Wars loves to hide sisters in strange places. But, is Bix part of the rebellion already? That's a possibility. All of this stuff's going on, but we're still early on, and we get 12 episodes. So they gave us basically the first quarter. We still got 9 episodes to go. So it's going to run for a while. And we're going to be talking about this for weeks, which is going to be cool. But wow, that has eaten up the whole show. I didn't even do a second break, but we can live with that, right, JD? We're going to go ahead and wrap that up there. Remember to stick around for What's in the Box with Miss Jen coming up right after this, where she goes out in the warehouse, grabs a random box, comes in, and just starts selling what's in it. We've also got Space Cadets tonight. We have Kicking It with Armory. And Nerdcular Warfare is on hiatus, thankfully. I almost have to hate the show now, and that's it. And then we'll have more stuff on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I'll be back on Tuesday where we're going to talk about She-Hulk, the latest episode. A lot of interesting stuff happened, and I've got some interesting theories I want to give you guys on Tuesday about She-Hulk. I think there's some big stuff coming. Is Jen back from France? JD, is Jen back from France? Not yet. Is Jenna hosting? Okay. So Jenna's going to the warehouse. See, they don't tell me anything. They just throw me out here and go, yeah, do your thing. So, all right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Please hit the like and subscribe buttons before you head out. Remember our membership services. And I hope you all have a great weekend. I'll see you next week. Good night, everybody.
Get the inside scoop on everything happening at the experience every week. Join our mailing list by scanning the QR code at the bottom of the screen and then watching your email inbox.